In 1988, a German marine biology student named Christian Sommer was collecting hydrozoans off the coast of Rapallo, Italy. He kept a few tiny jellyfish in his lab tank just to observe their life cycle. But when he checked on them days later, something impossible had happened. The adult jellyfish hadn't died. They'd turned back into babies. The species was Turritopsis dohrnii. It's about 4 to 5 millimeters wide, roughly the size of a pinky nail. Completely transparent, with a bright red stomach visible through its bell. It looks fragile, almost insignificant. You'd never guess this creature holds a biological ability that no other animal on Earth has been confirmed to possess. To understand what makes this jellyfish so strange, you first need to know how normal jellyfish live. Most jellyfish start as larvae. Those larvae settle on the ocean floor and become polyps, little stalks that look more like plants than animals. Eventually, the polyps bud off free-swimming medusae. That's the bell-shaped form we recognize. After the medusa reproduces, it dies. Every time. End of story. But Turritopsis dohrnii didn't follow the script. When Sommer's jellyfish reached the medusa stage and should have died after spawning, they instead sank to the bottom of the tank, reabsorbed their own tentacles, and reverted to the polyp stage. The adult had become a juvenile again. It was like watching a butterfly crawl back into its cocoon and become a caterpillar. Sommer published his observations, but the paper didn't exactly make headlines. The scientific community was skeptical. This kind of biological reversal wasn't supposed to happen in multicellular organisms. Cells differentiate. They specialize. They don't unspecialize. That's a one-way street. Or at least it was, until this jellyfish proved otherwise. It took nearly a decade for the finding to get serious attention. In 1996, Italian researchers Stefano Piraino and Ferdinando Buero published a landmark study confirming the reversal. They showed that Turritopsis could do this not just once, but repeatedly. Theoretically, the cycle could go on forever. The press gave it a name that stuck: the immortal jellyfish. Now, calling anything immortal is a big claim. So let's be precise about what's actually happening. The process is called transdifferentiation. That's when a mature, specialized cell transforms into a completely different type of specialized cell. A muscle cell can become a nerve cell. A skin cell can become a stomach cell. The jellyfish essentially reprograms its own body at the cellular level. Other animals can do small-scale transdifferentiation. Salamanders regrow limbs. Some newts can regenerate eye lenses. But Turritopsis does it with its entire body. Every cell. All at once. It's not healing a wound or replacing a lost part. It's rebuilding itself from scratch, resetting its biological clock back to zero. The trigger for this reversal seems to be stress. Physical damage, starvation, disease, old age. When a Turritopsis medusa is in trouble, instead of dying, it drops to the seafloor and curls inward. Its cells start losing their specialized identities. Within about 36 hours, the medusa has become a blob of tissue. Within 72 hours, that blob has anchored itself and started growing into a polyp colony. From that polyp colony, new medusae bud off. Genetically identical to the original. Sane DNA, fresh body. It's not reproduction. It's not cloning in the traditional sense. It's one individual cheating death by going backward through its own development. And as far as anyone can tell, there's no biological limit to how many times it can do this. So does this mean the jellyfish is truly immortal? Not exactly. They still get eaten by sea turtles, fish, and other jellyfish all the time. They can be killed by sudden environmental changes. In the wild, most Turritopsis probably never get the chance to use their reversal trick. They're gobbled up before they need to. Biological immortality doesn't mean invincibility. But here's what makes this animal a genuine scientific puzzle. Despite being studied for over 30 years, nobody has successfully maintained Turritopsis through multiple full reversal cycles in the lab. Only one researcher in the world has managed to keep them alive long enough to observe the process repeatedly. His name is Shin Kubota, and his story is almost as unusual as the jellyfish itself. Kubota is a marine biologist at Kyoto University's Marine Biological Laboratory. For over 15 years, he hand-fed his Turritopsis colonies every single day. Tiny brine shrimp, delivered with a pipette, one jellyfish at a time. He cleaned their tanks constantly. He called himself their guardian. By 2011, he'd watched one colony reverse its age cycle more than 10 times. But the real surprise isn't the reversal itself. It's what the genetic research has started to reveal about why it happens, and what it could mean for species far larger and more complex than a 4-millimeter jellyfish. We'll get to that. First, though, there's another twist to this story that most people never hear about. While scientists have been focused on how Turritopsis reverses aging, the species has been quietly spreading across the planet. It originally lived in the Mediterranean, but over the past few decades, it's been found in waters off Japan, Panama, Spain, Florida, and even as far as New Zealand. It's hitching rides in the ballast water of cargo ships. Because the polyp form is so small and tough, it survives inside the ballast tanks of massive container vessels. When the ship dumps its ballast water in a new port, the polyps come with it. Some marine biologists believe Turritopsis could become one of the most widespread jellyfish species on Earth, an animal that doesn't age and doesn't stay in one place. That's a potent combination. There's an ecological concern here that doesn't get much attention. When a potentially immortal species invades new waters, normal population checks might not apply the same way. If individuals can revert to juveniles instead of dying, the math of population control changes. Predators help, temperature limits help, but the species has one extra survival card that others don't. So far, there's no evidence that Turritopsis is causing major ecological disruption anywhere. They're too small to sting humans, too tiny to clog fishing nets or power plant intake, pipes the way larger jellyfish species do. But researchers note that we simply don't know yet. The species is hard to track because it's nearly invisible to the naked eye. Back in the lab, the genetics work has started producing real results. In 2022, a team led by Maria Pasquale Torner at the University of Oviedo in Spain published a study comparing the Turritopsis dohrnii genome to a closely related mortal species, Turritopsis rubra. They mapped the entire genome of both and looked for what makes the immortal one different. What they found was striking. The immortal jellyfish had unique variants in genes associated with DNA repair, telomere maintenance, and stem cell renewal. These aren't exotic alien genes. They're the same gene families that exist in humans. The jellyfish just seems to have more active, more efficient versions of the cellular machinery that keeps DNA intact and cells youthful. Telomeres are the caps at the ends of chromosomes. In most animals, including us, they shorten every time a cell divides. When they get too short, the cell stops working properly. That's one of the main mechanisms of aging. In Turritopsis, the genes that maintain telomere length appear to be significantly more active than in its mortal cousin. The jellyfish also showed amplified copies of genes related to a process called intercalary regeneration, which is the ability to regrow tissue between two existing body sections. And it had silenced certain genes linked to cellular aging and oxidative stress. In short, evolution had fine-tuned this animal's genome to resist the very processes that kill everything else. Now, The obvious question: can any of this help humans? The honest answer is probably not directly, and definitely not soon. The gap between a 4-millimeter jellyfish and a human being is enormous. We have trillions of specialized cells. We have brains, bones, organs. You can't just borrow a jellyfish gene and expect a person to age backward. Biology doesn't work like software updates. But the research has pointed aging scientists in new directions. Knowing which specific gene variants allow one species to reset its biological clock gives researchers targets they didn't have before. Several longevity labs are now studying Turritopsis-inspired pathways in human cell lines. Not to make people immortal, just to make cells repair themselves a little longer, a little better. Shin, Kubota, the man who spent 15 years feeding his jellyfish by hand, once told a reporter that he believed Turritopsis could eventually teach humanity how to reverse aging. He said it with complete sincerity. He also writes pop songs about the jellyfish and performs them at karaoke bars in Shirahama. He's devoted his life to an animal most people will never see.